Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Double Booked. I'm Irene, and we're back with another installment of The Summer of Sarah. And today I read the rest of the story, and I'm going to be reviewing it here for you. I am so excited about this. I have no idea how to even begin because this is, I believe, her latest release. It was released in 2019. It is one that I have not read before, so I really am excited to get into it. Let's just dive in and I'm just so excited to cover it. I'm definitely buying it, putting it on my bookshelf right over there, and I hope you guys have read it, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. But Okay, so this book is about Emma Sailor Payne and her summer with her mom's side of the family after her summer plans are canceled and her father scrambles to find a solution before he leaves the country. As her only option, she spends the summer with her maternal grandmother, whom she last saw years earlier at her mother's funeral. Over the summer, she reconnects with relatives and friends she hasn't seen in years and learns more about her past and connects the idea of her mother with the truth. It is quite the story. Just right off the bat, just so you know, her mom is was, I should say, because her mom did die. Her mom was an addict. She definitely abused alcohol as well as drugs, and we'll get into it, but it is something that is a very prevalent theme and is a reason kind of why her dad, I should say, kind of kept her away from her mom's side of the family, as we will see and we'll get into. So, right off the bat in this book, we actually get a really cute snapshot of Emma and her mom, and I really like this snapshot. Also, her first name is Emma, but her mom called her Sailor, and then everybody on her mom's side also calls her Sailor. So I'm probably just gonna call her Sailor the rest of the video because she only gets referenced as Emma in like the first, I would say, like 50 pages of the book. It's not really like, and her dad is really the only one that calls her that, but everybody else calls her Sailor. So if I kind of slip up and say Emma or Sailor, just so you know, it is the same person. But anyway, like I was saying, we get this really cute snapshot of Sailor and her mom. Sailor is remembering how her mom used to tell her stories about the lake that she grew up on. And then it cuts to the present where Sailor is at her dad's wedding. Her mom has been dead for about 5 years, and he's getting remarried to her stepmom. Her parents divorced in her younger years. And it was because of her mom's addiction and the fact that she wasn't able to be present. And unfortunately, her mom did die of an overdose. But the good news is she does like her future stepmom. She's happy for her dad. She's happy that, like, things are progressing well in her life. And she seems to have a decent group of friends around her. So that's always good. Um, so it kicks off with her going to her long lost grandmother's house and the fact that she needs to be with somebody to watch her at 17 years old because her dad's going on his honeymoon. Her paternal grandmother is going on a cruise. And I think she's eventually going to meet up with her dad. It was something like this. And I get why this is a plot point, but I also think it's so ridiculous that a 17-year-old girl couldn't stay home alone. And I know that this is like Dessen's way of like propelling the story forward and like using this as like, hey, like she can't be alone. And I understand why he wouldn't want to leave her alone because especially not only as like a younger child but like as a 17-year-old female, it is a scary thing. However, he does seem to live in a rich part of town, so I have no problem thinking that she would probably be okay. That's just my opinion. I'm not a parent. I understand maybe if like somebody was checking in on her or something, but anyway, she was planning on staying with a friend because her grandmother was going to be out of town, but then the friend's grandfather, I should say, had a stroke. Family needed to go to like Ohio to be with the grandfather, whatever it is. So the paternal grandmother actually comes up with the idea to call the maternal grandmother, and ask her if Sailor could stay with her, and she happily agrees because she hasn't seen her grandchild in like a decade, not 5 years actually since her mother's funeral, but she hasn't like spent time with her in a really long time. And Sailor goes off to a place she hasn't been since she was 5. So right off the bat, she can't stay alone because plot point, obviously. Also, take a shot every time I say right off the bat. I don't know why I kept saying that or why I kept like writing it because sometimes I do text to talk if I'm over abundant in my review. I'm just like, I need to just like speak it into the phone or the computer, whatever it might be. So please excuse that. I don't mean to say the same phrase 100 times, but apparently this was my phrase of the week. Um, and I understand, again, I understand it's a point for her to go to the lake and everything. I think it also could have worked though if, like, you know, the day of her dad's wedding, she got a letter from her long lost grandmother. I know she's not long and lost, but like it kind of is like that. And she was like, hey, I've been thinking about you a lot. And she doesn't have to be like sick or anything. She can just be like, hey, I've been thinking about you a lot. Um, Maybe it could be around the anniversary of her mother's passing and being like, hey, like I would love it if you would come spend a week with me in the summertime, like at my cabin. Because she owns like a kind of like a bed and breakfast situation that everybody kind of helps and pitches in on. So I'm just saying, like, I feel like it could have been a different one. I guess I just don't love the idea that like parents don't leave their kids home alone, because we saw this in Saint Anything, which also, sorry, I'm still so in love with that book. In this book, I think my rival Saint Anything in like my favorite spot for like a Dessen book. Regardless, not the point, not the point. We'll keep going. Anyway, I also think though I really have a problem because not only has she not seen her grandmother in years, but like they don't talk, they don't do anything. And I think I'm not saying it's probably easy for, a parent to lose another co parent. And I know they weren't together or anything, but like, how are you going to keep your daughter from half of her family? Like, I think that's actually probably the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, you're not going to have her call, have her write a card, write a letter, like nothing. And then now because you need a favor, she's suddenly good enough. And we see him hesitate in the book, like when the maternal or paternal grandmother is like, hey, like you should probably call her, and everybody's like, it's like that's kind of a wild idea. But we also eventually see how much her maternal side of the family cares for her and how much they're like willing to help her out and just be there for her. And she starts talking to everybody and she decides that she's going to make a family tree of her mom's side, and she doesn't know them all, which is really hard. So she has to like kind of find a way to ask these people these questions and everything. And I feel like that's just sad. And I don't think it's a bad idea to make a family tree. Like I have a huge family. I make family trees so people can like reference who's who in my family. But like I don't know. I just think it's really like shitty that she can't I think it's just shitty that she can't talk to both sides of the family. Like her dad's side of the family is pretty small. And she knows her mom's side is big, and her mom had a sister. And oh God, it broke my heart when she meets like, or like reacquaints herself, I will say, with her aunt. I don't think she like re-meets her or anything or reintroduces herself, but I think it's different when you see someone when you're 5 versus like 10 years later when you're 15. But I think it's just it breaks my heart because she like looks at her and she just sees her mom. Like she sees her sister and her daughter, like in Sailor. And I have a sister and 2 brothers, and one, I would be devastated if like one of my siblings' children didn't like talk to me at all. And two, if I like saw them sitting there and like they look just like my dead sibling, I would probably have a mental breakdown. So like when I read that, like I gasped. I was like, but like I would probably lose it. Like that just like breaks my heart. Anyway, so it's not easy when someone dies, and I understand these things aren't easy and they were divorced and all of these things, but I don't know. It's like I think he owes his daughter. He's like, I don't owe them anything. And it's like, no, but you do owe your daughter like the option to have like her family in her life. Like, I think it's really shitty to not do that. Like, I think you're failing as a parent. And truthfully, I rip into her dad a lot because he is, oh, God, her dad really pisses me off in a lot of freaking ways. Because, okay, so her mom's side of the family is poorer than her dad's. Um, Sailor doesn't necessarily see it as an issue in the sense of like she's like I'm not gonna like be classist or elitist, um, and it really pisses me off because her dad acts like that, and I'm just like you're not better than somebody because you have more money than them. Like it's just like a whole thing, and it really pisses me off because not only did her family swoop in and save the day, they saved his ass and they were nice, but you're gonna treat them like shit. honestly, I hope your tire pops. Like, you're such a rude person for that. But anyway, we quickly find out when she gets to know them and everything that they actually think that she is kind of a spoiled brat and she was supposed to be relaxing on the lake, but she does start to help work around the motel because she wants to help out, and her grandmother is older and she doesn't want her to do all of these things, and one of her cousins is pregnant, and she's like, it's not fair that I'm an able-bodied person and um I can't help or anything. But her grandmother was like, no, you don't need to help. Like, she apparently told the other cousins, like, hey, she's not working, like, don't make this like bad for her. And I wonder if her dad said something and like would probably like put it in her grandmother's head, or just was kind of being like rude and again elitist. But like Sailor has no problem helping out, and it just makes me really sad um to think that like Sailor is just trying to connect with them and her dad is already ruining it for her without even her knowing. But I also think it's pretty rude of them to think that she's a spoiled brat, because I don't think she is. I understand why they might think that, but they don't even know her, and they don't even know her like they don't know her personality, they don't know, just anything about her or her socioeconomic like knowledge and status. I don't know. I think it's frustrating because she didn't do anything to anybody, and I think coming in and being so mean to her is not cool. Like I'm frustrated with her cousins. I understand where they're coming from. But it's like it's everybody's not everybody's fault. Like, I really think it's her dad's fault, truthfully, just my opinion. Um but I just feel like it's really not cool to be mean to someone when you don't even know them, and it's not even her fault. Like, she's a child. Like, it's not like she could do anything. Like, I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous. Our main character love interest. His name is Christopher. Everybody calls him Roo, though, because he loves kangaroos. We also find out that Chris's dad, whom Chris is named after, died in a boating accident because he was with Sailor's mom. They were both drinking, and eventually they got into the accident and he ended up drowning. We find out that it really, really affected Sailor's mom, I feel like, as it would, because you are partially responsible for the death of somebody that could have been very preventable, um, if you just hadn't been drinking and driving on a lake at night. But please don't drink and drive. It is incredibly dangerous. Please, just like, if you're gonna drink, just like do it. Just don't go anywhere. Just stay where you're at. But it haunts her mom the rest of her life, and she didn't want to go back to the place where he died. She had a lot of bad memories, so Sailor had never gone back to the lake after that accident. It's just really sad because Chris and Sailor's mom were best friends growing up. They were literally attached at the hip. They did everything together. Um, and I think it's interesting that they both died years apart, but they can't like live their lives without each other, essentially, because they were so intertwined in that way. I mean, it doesn't really mean much. Like, they seemingly were both like alcoholics and things like that. I don't know. I just think it's an interesting thing. I can't imagine being responsible for somebody's death. And I know she wasn't 120% directly responsible, but I don't know. I just think if she hadn't run off or like tried to save him, or because the story goes that she had run off somewhere and he was going to look for her. So he took the boat out on the lake because he thought she was out on the lake, and then that's when the accident happened and he died. But she was like hiding in her shed that she usually hid in. Um, who's to say he would have died, but he didn't also need to go. I don't know. It's just like, it's a lot, like a lot of what ifs. Point being, it happened, he died. She eventually dies of an overdose because seemingly she can't seem to bear the brunt of this responsibility in her heart. So Taylor spends the summer getting to know her family, getting to know Chris, same person, getting to know, her grandmother, everybody really, her whole family, getting to know her family history, filling out that family tree and everything. She's only supposed to be there for 3 weeks. So this book really takes place over like a month and a half, like from like her dad's wedding until the end. But her dad is coming to pick her up, and and he's insistent that she leave right away because he doesn't want her to be a burden on her grandmother, but she is like begging him to stay. She's like, I'm having such a good time, like we're all enjoying ourselves, like I'm getting to know my cousins. And he's like, fine, you can stay, but you have to stay with me at the country club across the way. No, I want to stay with my grandmother, but he's like, that's the only way I'm letting you stay, like there are two sides to the lake, like you have to see it. And I'm just like, shut up, like you're so annoying. um but anyway, that's just my opinion. I don't want to get into it. Kind of goes into his classist, elitist bullshit of like there's like a true blue middle collar class, and then there's like the white collar, and he doesn't want her staying with her grandmother anymore. And she's like, I just got here, whatever. But so eventually she agrees to go. Eventually she also sneaks out to a party that she said she wasn't going to go to, ends up drinking, gets caught. Her dad absolutely shuts it down because he's like, well, your mom was an addict, like you don't get to be an addict. And she's like, that's not fair, like I haven't done anything. He's like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying he shouldn't punish his child for drinking underage. However, I think it's incredibly unfair to punish someone for underage drinking, take away all forms of communication, and then you yourself, as the freaking parent, not talk to them, go completely like mute and just like shut them out completely. Like, that's not good parenting. You're just a petty, petulant child at that point. Next time, maybe choose a better mother for your child if you're gonna have such a problem with these things. I'm just saying, you knew who your wife was when you met her. Be a better parent. Anyway, I think he's a really horrible father. He doesn't listen to his daughter. He refused to let her have her family around her. And then he also just like blames her for things that aren't even her fault. She didn't get to choose her parents. Like, don't be a dick. Um, I think Dessen just likes to write bad parents, and he stopped talking to his daughter for a few days, which really just like bothered me because that's just not good parenting. I just said that, but like it just really, really bothers me. Um, but it's like, give her just like a little bit of slack because she made one mistake and she never really gets in trouble or makes mistakes like that. Like, just, I don't know, talk to her. Like, be like, hey, I am worried about you. And, I did overreact and blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't, God forbid, he doesn't do that. He just kind of like doubles down. Anyway, we also find out she has a crush on Rue, which I think is really super cute. But because her dad caught her with him, he wasn't even drinking. He was just bringing her back. He like bans Rue from seeing his daughter, which is really stupid. But the climax of the book kind of comes about when there is a hurricane warning, and the clubhouse or country club, whatever they're staying at, had recently been rebuilt because of the last storm that had torn through there. Allegedly, they say that it was like perfect and it was going to be just fine and everything was just going to be okay. We quickly find out that that's not the case, though, because let me back up a little bit too. So Sailor and her paternal grandmother were trying to come up with a plan to get everybody together and have them all hang out and just kind of be able to like talk so that way Sailor could keep them in her life. They planned this beautiful dinner at the country club, and the day the storm was hitting was the day this was supposed to happen. The country club kept telling everybody it was fine. Sailor's dad and her stepmom now, and even but her paternal grandmother was kind of like going back and forth. The country club kept saying it was fine, that nothing was going to happen, and even if something did, they'd be fine. But like her maternal side of the family was like, no, this is like not okay. This is what happened last time. There were clear skies, and then it tore everything apart. Um, and then the storm hits, and everything is torn apart at the country club. The problem was Sailor decided that she was going to go look for one of her younger cousins who had actually grown very attached to her over the short time that she had been there. And she was hiding out somewhere, and, Rue calls her. He's like, we can't find her. Like, I don't know where she is. Is she with you? Blah, blah, blah. And then Sailor was like, I have to go. Like, I have to go find her. And her dad was like, well, you're not freaking going alone, which fair, like fair. It's about to freaking hurricane. You should not be going alone somewhere. Especially like right by a body of water. Like, it's just a good idea. But so whatever, her dad goes with her. They end up finding the kid. They end up like batching down the hatchet. Is it bearing down the hatchet? Whatever the saying is, I don't and not like a nautical sailor or something like that, whatever. So eventually, though, they go and, the storm blows over and everything ends up okay. The big thing, though, is the country club is completely torn to smithereens. You know why? Because the country club actually wasn't as safe as they said it was. Um, and yeah, so pretty much it ends with, Sailor is going to come back to the lake. She's very sad about leaving because she very much enjoyed her time there and everything. It seems like her and Rue are actually going to be just fine, and they're going to, have their own little thing on the side and all of that. But I just think the biggest thing is the fact that, like, you just like you can't keep somebody from their family, right? Like that's my biggest takeaway. I don't know. I also grew up with both of my cousins on both sides of my family, so like I feel very strongly about this, but I think it's really bad to not let people see their family. Like, look, I get it if they're like really bad people, but these people are just like trying to live their lives. Like they're just trying to like exist, and her dad just like punishes them for that. But I really did love this story. I really want to read it again. I actually recommended it to a friend, and I was just like obsessed with it from the start until the end. I loved it. Do wish, as always, we had a lot more confrontation, but other than that, I highly recommend the story. I can't recommend it enough, truthfully. Um, you know, I will be back next week with another Summer of Sarah video. If you want to leave a like, comment, subscribe, or let me know what other books you would like me to cover, I'd be more than happy to cover them. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Bye.